Hello and welcome to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, break down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. It has been a busy week all across the board, whether it's Love Island USA couples or the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City or in the city. I mean, we have so much to discuss. Breakups, makeups. Andrea Denver is here. You guys know he's my favorite guest of all time and he's just the best. So I'm super excited to get into everything today. And, right before I sat down to record the podcast, I had everything written out. It's like however many 9 pages long. And we had 2 major news updates happen as I'm pushing record. So I am going to give you kind of like 2 for 1 in a few different stories. We're going to start with JaNa and Kenny, and I'm going to go into Nick and Olandria, that news that just dropped. But let's start with JaNa and Kenny because they had major drama this week. Starting with Kenny Rodriguez speaking out for the first time about his split from JaNa Craig. He went on a podcast. It's been a year. He said he's waited this long because he didn't want to paint her in a bad light, and he felt he had to respond to the ongoing backlash. So Kenny claimed their relationship became toxic, alleging JaNa was verbally abusive, that he tried to end the relationship multiple times, and that she convinced him to stay, promising to change. He also addressed the alleged racist text messages that surfaced about their breakup, saying he takes full accountability for what he wrote, but argues they don't define him, pointing to his Dominican background, Black ancestry, and past relationships with Black women, which if you remember, whenever this came out, there wasn't a whole lot of information about why they broke up. They were together at a party the night before posting, and then the very next day, it was like everything blew up. There were some Black background, white text, if you know, you know. But, JaNa basically said, I saw some messages on his phone that were extremely inappropriate and racist, and I am no longer going to be with him. So that's what he is referring to here. Kenny further alleged that JaNa became physical after finding these messages on his phone and said he threatened to call the police during the incident. JaNa wasted no time in responding. She went on her Instagram stories calling Kenny's entire podcast appearance a lie and saying her lawyers are already preparing legal action. She firmly denied ever being physically abusive, saying she has never in her life assaulted anyone and that violence is completely out of character for her. She also disputed several of Kenny's specific claims, including that she begged for him back or that he ignored her after the breakup, saying those events never happened. She claims she has dozens of screenshots that contradict Kenny's version of events and challenged him to release the messages publicly. She also criticized Kenny for allegedly sending her a cease and desist before going on this podcast to, in her words, make up straight lies and suggested he only did the interview because he needed the money. That's part 1. That's part 1, which I would have never in a million years imagined that this is where we would end up with JaNa and Kenny. I mean, you think back to season 6, you think back to Kenny coming in as a bombshell. They went through a lot. He brought somebody back from Casa Amor. JaNa was always a fan favorite from the beginning. She was just a star, lit up the screen. They seemed so happy then, you know what I mean? And it's like, I just would have never in a million years imagined that here we would be 2 years later, right? Because they were together season 6, they broke up last year, and now here we are again getting details about potentially the cops being called. And JaNa was also like, no, I was the one who threatened to call the cops on you, Kenny. Well, Cordell Beckham also has entered the conversation after all of these claims that Kenny made on the podcast. Because Kenny was asked, did anyone from the cast reach out to you? And he said, only Cordell. I have the utmost respect for Cordell. Well, Cordell has a different version of events. He said Kenny lied the entire time and clarified that when Kenny called him, Cordell confronted him over his actions and they haven't spoken since. So Cordell ended his statement by publicly supporting JaNa, writing, shout out my sis JaNa, keep my name out of your mouth, Kenny. I don't mess with you for real. And then JaNa reposted Cordell's message, calling him a brother for life. I just don't understand Kenny's reasoning for doing this podcast now. A year later, he just came off of this other show that he did where apparently he became a fan favorite or at least garnered a new fan base. So things were seemingly going well for him. And, in this podcast, he also talks about how this public lifestyle affects his mental health in a negative way, which is a totally fair and valid point. I just don't see how doing a podcast now is going to not reopen this can of worms. Like, that's exactly what it did. This whole podcast is about how, miserable he's been living this public life. And then it just doesn't add up to me. And I do understand, I guess, from his perspective, wanting to clear his name. But when you have JaNa quickly refuting and then Cordell, because let's be honest, you never know what goes down behind closed doors of a relationship. You just don't. There's always going to be two sides to the story. Unfortunately, we're not there with surveillance cameras. We're not going to know. But Cordell stepping in on behalf of JaNa says a lot to me, because Cordell was seemingly friends with both Kenny and JaNa. It's like, what reason would he have to pick a side other than he knows what went on? Do you get what I'm saying? And Cordell saying Kenny misrepresented things just based on their interaction makes a lot of people look at the rest of what Kenny was saying and is like, okay, well, is he misrepresenting other things? So now let's get to Nick and Olandria. Nick and Olandria, a People exclusive, saying that they are broken up 1 year after meeting on Love Island USA Season 7. Quick recap, they came in second place behind Brian and Amaya. Was Season 7 just the biggest disaster of Love Island USA? Season 8 obviously wasn't that great either. What happened was Season 6 was peak television, and nothing can ever place that. Look at who we still have from Season 6. We have Serena and Cordell, Leah and Miguel. I know I'll forget people TJ and Iris, even though they didn't end up together on the show, but they did afterwards. Anyways, Nick and Olandria, second place in Love Island USA Season 7, fan favorite. They have gone their separate ways. So according to People, a source says they remain close friends and will always support one another. They decided to part ways because the distance and their busy schedules made it hard to maintain their connection. It says they will always love. They share a deep love and respect for each other and will always support one another whenever possible. You guys are not going to like what I have to say, because I have always been of the opinion that Nick and Olandria didn't really like each other all that much. When you consider the way Nick and Olandria got together on the show, I don't know. Do I want to open up that can of worms? I don't know. But Nick was locked down. We don't need to rehash it, but Nick was locked down with Sierra. They were. And then production wanted to do everything they could to keep Nick and Olandria both on the show. Remember, they both had gotten booted from the show, but then they show up in that car and they're like, hop in, we're going on a date and whatever. And I get it. I love Olandria. I love Nick. I have nothing against them as people. They came off the show and also always kept their relationship under wraps. Even most recently, Olandria was in the press saying, I don't understand why people are so concerned about our relationship. And it's like, well, they're concerned because they watched you start your relationship on a reality TV show and you guys were fan favorites. So it's like, I don't know. Sometimes it bothers me when people that got famous because of strong fandoms then turn around and are like, why are you still a part of my fandom? You get what I'm saying? It's only human nature for hardcore Nick Olandria stans to be invested in their relationship. But they kept it private. They wanted to, hold it close to the vest for whatever reason. I don't know, but they are no longer together. So let's move on to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. First this week, the Shawn and Angie K news. So multiple outlets reporting that Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Angie Katzenevas and her husband, Shawn Trulio, of 27 years, have separated. They've been together since the late 90s, married in 1999. They have a 15-year-old daughter, Electra. They also co-own the Lunatic Fringe salon business. The news comes just over a month after what would have been their 27th wedding anniversary. And people were starting to pick up that there was some weird stuff going on, because last year for their 26th wedding anniversary, Angie posted this very long, heartfelt tribute about this dreamy guy she met while getting a blowout to her hair, saying the rest is hairstory. And this year, crickets. Throughout their time on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, they have face, persistent rumors about Shawn's sexuality and allegations that he had not been faithful to Angie. But both Angie and Shawn publicly denied the rumors, with Shawn saying his issue wasn't people speculating about his sexuality, but the implication that he had cheated on his wife. Despite the speculation, the two often spoke highly of one another publicly, while Shawn previously called Angie the strongest woman he knows and praising her as a wife and mother. Neither Shawn nor Angie have publicly addressed the reported separation yet, and the reason for the split has not been confirmed, and they're not the only ones. Whitney and Justin are in the news today, apparently, reportedly, living completely separate lives, according to this article on page 6. Even when they're in the same place, they stay far away from each other. It was like, even when they're at the gym, they're not together. Whitney was barely at their joint home before season 7 started filming, which I think is an interesting thing to note, because we're going to be able to, well, it depends. If we watch season 7 and Whitney is like always in the house and with Justin and whatever, we're going to be really confused by this report, right? But maybe she's not in the house during season 7. We don't know. But the report was basically just saying that they are putting on a brave face for the kids. They have 2 children together. But Whitney and Justin's issues have been, I think, on display more than Angie and Shawn's have. The news that they're rocky definitely didn't surprise me as much as Angie and Shawn's. Whitney and Justin have been very open in how this show has affected their relationship dynamic and their businesses. Seasons ago, Justin got fired from his job after that mud hot tub scene, which was a very bizarre scene. Like, if you are one day wanting to be on the Real Housewives of whatever, just don't do the bathtub scene, okay? It never bodes well. It doesn't go well with the audience, and it did not go well with Justin's employer either, because he's like, you either got to get out of this or you can no longer work here. So he no longer worked there. Well, then, Wild Rose Beauty was Whitney's business, and there were some conversations about what direction the business was going to go in. And long story short, it kind of took the route of an MLM, seemingly, and that might have been Justin's decision based on the way that Whitney portrayed it. I think it was last season of Salt Lake City. So there was this I wouldn't say secret, but there was definitely some resentment building in working together both on the show and then in their businesses. So we'll see if it plays out on the show, how it plays out on the show. Headline number 3, Aaron Rodgers reunited with his family after their 10-year estrangement. So the quarterback shared a series of Instagram photos from what he called, quote, another bonding week, featuring his mom, dad, and brother Luke. Aaron Rodgers has been publicly estranged from his family for nearly a decade, with the rift becoming public in 2016 during his brother Jordan Rodgers' season of The Bachelorette. Well, these photos show Aaron smiling with his parents and even helping assemble a toy, suggesting things have improved with at least some members of his family. Not in the photo dump, his younger brother Jordan Rodgers, or JoJo. The brothers' relationship has remained strained over the years. Aaron reportedly did not attend Jordan and JoJo's wedding in 2022, and reports last year claimed that Jordan wasn't invited to Aaron's secret wedding to his wife, Brittany. Aaron did acknowledge the situation with Jordan on his Netflix documentary, which is called Aaron Rodgers Enigma, saying the issues date back to high school and college, but he really criticized the way he was portrayed on The Bachelorette. Claim there was this, the hometown dates, JoJo's going home to meet everybody's family, and she goes home to meet the Rodgers, and there is a dining room table with 2 missing seats for Aaron Rodgers, and I think it was Olivia Munn. I think that's who he was dating at the time. But according to Aaron, he was never even invited to that sit-down family dinner, so he really didn't like that. Now, even though JoJo and Jordan aren't in any of these photos, they both liked the photos of Aaron on Instagram. So I know that's silly and minuscule and small, but it does give me hope. I mean, if you're really estranged with somebody, I feel like maybe this is just me and my petty self. I go out of my way to not like their posts, to sometimes they even get the block. So the fact that they're interacting on social media. The fact that Aaron is interacting face to face with his parents and another one of their brothers, I think they're going to get there. I truly hope. And this gives me hope for the Beckham family. Now that the World Cup is over, one of my favorite parts, this is how I'm a pop culture girly. David was sitting there loving every second of the World Cup, watching England, and I was loving watching the camera pan to Victoria and David and their family and everybody there except for Brooklyn. And I just feel like if Aaron Rodgers can make up with his family, like Brooklyn Beckham can make up with his family, time will tell. All right, now it's time for this week's deep dive. I am so excited for this week's guest. He is a ray of sunshine. He is just the best. My favorite MPT guest. I believe this is his third time being on the show, which would mean he is the person who has returned the most to MPT. You know him from Summer House and In the City. So please welcome for the deep dive, the one and only Andrea Denver. Andrea Denver, welcome back to MPT. I'm so excited.
Hello, Morgan. I'm very happy to be here. You're probably my favorite podcaster.
Well,
I always have the best time with you.
Yeah, we both have unique experiences of, K1 visas and all types of different visas. And I mean, now, first and foremost, congratulations on becoming a dad.
I mean, it's something that I always wanted, so I'm really excited. Both Lexi and I were very excited. We were always on the same page about having kids. It was a little bit of you didn't really see on the show because God, chopped. But it was about a little bit more of timing because, we travel a lot. So our schedule is very, very intense. So while I'm more of an adventurer, so I'm more let's do it. It's fine. It's all good. She was more maybe it's better we're, in the same place for a longer time. We don't have all these work trips to do. But then, she... At one point, after a little while, she was like, you know what? There's never going to be perfect timing. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be you never know, there's never a perfect timing. I mean, nothing is perfect in this world. So she was like, let's do it. And, we, we got to try. And she surprised me by the end of the year, a couple of days before. New Year's Eve, I was in heaven. I was really, really happy. And, then we took a quick trip to Italy early February. And on that trip, I think the night before we were flying back to the US, we found out the sex of the baby.
Aww.
Which is a little girl. And, it's very exciting. We're really ready for this new chapter. We're really looking forward. Initially, I got to say, I'll be honest with you, I was really happy about we found out the sex, but I was like, oh my gosh, I felt a lot of responsibility because, I want to be the best dad possible. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I think I can, she's going to be in good hands. I'm going to
You're
be.
You're such a girl dad. I mean, people have had to have told you that.
Yeah. A lot of people have said that. So I feel very comfortable, but I gotta be honest with you. At first I was like, oh my gosh, because with a boy, I grew up only child, so I know a lot of things. But then I was like, you know what? We found out at night. I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be great at this. I'm gonna put all myself into it, and it was beautiful, and I'm very, very excited for this new journey.
Myself and David are where you guys were. Where we're having the conversation and we know deep down in our hearts that it's what we want, but it's the unknown of how it's going to affect your day-to-day life and your career and, your travel. We're traveling to see his family in South Africa and, you have family in Italy. So it's was it just a process? And like you said, you just decided, what, we're going to do it? Or how did you come to grips with, all of the change?
So basically, I mean, once again, we talked about it plenty, but I'm telling you for the first time officially because nobody knows that. I grew up with my parents. We travel all the time together. They always made it work. First of all, we have family in the U.S., so we start taking U.S. trips since I was a kid. travel everywhere. And my parents always managed to make everything happen. And they both worked. You know, my dad is a doctor. My mom is a university teacher, but she did conference all over the world. And they always took me with them. I never even had a babysitter or anything. And, you know, they always made it work. So it was for me, that's why I felt very comfortable. And that's, you know, what I was telling Lexi. It just didn't scare me. You know, we are just excited to start this new journey as parents.
I know there's still, you know, some question marks around In the City season 2, but have you guys discussed what it might be like filming right after having a child?
So, yes. I mean, we first of all, there's no updates at the moment, so we don't know anything. We've been discussing, and we think that the baby is going to be the first priority. So that's what is going to come first, and everything else is going to come second. So we take it day by day, but definitely our goal is like to give birth, that everything is good, that Lexi's good, the baby's good. That's the most important thing. So based on that, everything else gonna, everything else gonna come after that.
It's really special that you guys found out this news, and Nick and Yvonne and Danielle and Owen. Have you guys been able to lean on each other through this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lexi and Yvonne, they talk all the time. They have this huge, like, hours long FaceTime calls, and you know, they talk about babies, they talk about so many things. So there's been also, like, when we're in person, we see each other. So there's been a lot of talks. Also, like, you know, we've been checking on Danielle and Owen. It's funny because Yvonne, we kind of knew we were going through the same journey at the same time. We didn't tell each other right away, but we know we were trying at the same time. So we ended up like, Lex and Yvonne ended up telling each other, like, the same day. And it was beautiful to find out about Danielle and Owen. I had a suspicion back in January, I think, at the Summer House launch party, because we were all there in New York, and Danielle wasn't drinking. Owen wasn't drinking. I was like,
you guys gotta tell us something.
Yeah, but you know, you don't want to like, you know, go too far. So, but it was like, is Danielle pregnant? But you know, that was just a suspicion. Then, you know, it became reality a few months later. They were like, oh, we're doing dry January. I was like, oh, okay. Because, you know, Lexi and I, we can get away with that because we don't really drink. Neither of us. I've never been a big drinker. She's never been either. Of course, we can have we do social drinking, but you know, if somebody doesning see us drinking, they don't really.
It's not a red flag.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
With them, it was like, you know, something might be happening.
How are Danielle and Owen doing? I mean, I know they're going through a very difficult time.
Yeah, it's been very difficult, but you know, I think they're doing good. From what I'm hearing from Owen, there's progress every day. You know, they're always there with the baby, which is beautiful. I know, like, Danielle is super present. She spends her days there, so I'm very, very excited. And you know, I hope that this time is gonna go by fast for them. I mean, 1 month has already passed, which is great. But you know, I can't wait for them to finally be able to go home and enjoy fully this beautiful moment.
And one of these days, your 3 kids are going to be the next gen of In the City, running around together on camera.
Let's take one step at a time, but who knows? Yeah. And plus, there is Gemma that, you know, also right? Gemma. Lexi and I, in New York, we're neighbors with Lindsay. So we spend so much time with Gemma and Lindsay, of course. And I gotta say that Gemma made me feel very, very comfortable about becoming what is girl's dad?
Girl dad.
Girl's dad. I got it right this time. Yeah. So it made me very comfortable because, you know, we were bringing toys every time, spending time playing, and you know, she's such a smart, like, full of energy baby. It's so refreshing spending time with her and with Lindsay as a mom. You know, she's a wonderful mom. So it made me feel very comfortable because also, like, you know, I spend time with some other of my friends that have children, but they're boys. So I didn't really spend enough quality time with a little girl until Gemma. And, you know, I felt very, very at home. So I was like, yeah, I can totally do that and, you know, have fun with my little one.
Okay, I want to go back in time. We're going to
Yeah.
talk about some of your experiences on Summer House. It's been, I mean, how many years has it been since
I
your
mean,
time on Summer House?
fully, we filmed 5 summers ago. Then, the first couple summer I went back for a few times. The year of the wedding, 2024, I didn't go back at all. And last year I went back 1 time. Yeah, a lot of time has passed by. And, it's been a big journey because it's been a lot of big steps.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially when you consider your last season of Summer House, we were seeing your internal battle of, not being with Lexi and feeling like
Yeah.
maybe you missed your opportunity to be with her. I do want to know what your perspective is now on leaving Summer House when you did. I mean, the fan reaction was, we were very upset, but I want to know, were you at peace with that decision going into the next chapter of your life?
Yeah, definitely. I was a piece because when I got this second chance with Lexi, I didn't want to let that train pass by. I thought that was like hopefully, I mean, I believe in that, a lifetime train, and it would have been. I felt so blessed to have that chance. Also, let's not forget about like I mean, no, I don't think a lot of people know, but Lexi's very young. Lexi's 26 years old. Back then, she was still 20, 21. Turning, I mean, when we got together, it was almost her 22nd birthday. And everybody has their own time in life, everybody they make their own choices. But I never felt like Lexi to be that young. I always felt like I was like somebody my age, like,
Mhm.
somebody, because, she's smart, she's educated, she speaks like about the things she feels about, and she's very mature. But I met somebody that was like really worthy. She was smart, plus like she was studying, she was in the university, she was studying interior designer in New York City. So we have this connection. I grew up with classic studies, ancient Greek, Latin, literature. That's my background. That's what we studied in Italy. So, and those were my favorite subjects. So, we could relate on architecture, all of that. She knew everything about Greek architecture. So for me, those are little things that still like have a big impact because,
Mm.
you have somebody that you can talk about so many things that you travel with and they're interested in what they see. Also, like she surprised me right away because, I was a party boy in my 20s. I had nothing to hide. But party boys, I like to go out. I like to go to the club. I like to go to the festivals. And I remember the first few months, Lexi and I started dating. This is a small thing. I'm not saying that this has a big impact, but I was actually very surprised. I asked her, "Do you want to go to Coachella?" And she's like, "No, I don't care about going to Coachella. Like I don't really care." And I was like very surprised because it's like okay, like she was already over it. I mean, she went out a little bit in New York, but she didn't really care about all of that. She's basically, I'm done with that. I try, it's whatever. It's she got bored really quick about it, and I felt like I was making the right move, and I'm very very convinced. So looking back, I have no regrets. It was a great experience. You had to make choices, but that was the whole thing. When I'm committed to Lexi, it was giving up a few things, but not in a bad way. That's what I was trying
Mhm.
to. I don't know if you pick it up on at that one of the last dinners in Connecticut on in the city. Um, my point was like, unfortunately or fortunately, depends how you approach it. When you commit to a big thing, and I'm sure you can relate because I'm pretty sure you and David you don't do the same lifestyle you used to do before, like you guys were single. You got to give up a few things, but that's part of love. That's part of like getting married, like looking forward for the next chapter. You got to give up a few things, but it doesn't have to be something that you suffer for. Yeah, it might take some time to adjust, but it's something that you should embrace because you're doing it with the person that you want to be with. So, that's why for me in that moment with Kyle, I was just saying, I don't think it was a great idea to DJ. Also, that was before the scandal, before all of that. So, I was talking because of that moment, that timeline.
Mhm.
And because also there's been some issues in the past about him going out, some issues with, rumors and all of that. But that was my point. Now I see Kyle is single. He's thriving. I'm very happy for his career. Like, if this is what he want to do, I'm happy for him. I'm here cheering. I'm always here. I'm always there. I'm always going to be there cheering for him, for whatever is best for him. In that moment, he was trying to save a marriage. Of course, to save a marriage, got to be two people. So if you don't get help, they know better. They know the dynamics better than anyone else, because you live under the same rooftop, so you under the same roof, so you understand what's really going on. But in that moment, I was coming from a good place. I was like, is it really smart to do this in this moment when you're trying to save your marriage? But probably felt differently. Maybe he knew that it was going to end no matter what. So that's why I was very vocal in that moment. But because yes, like being in a relationship, you know that you can't do everything that you were doing when you were single.
So what was that conversation like after your last season? Was it like, I am in love and I know that Summer House is mostly for single people? Was it a mutual decision, or do you feel like you felt like there may have been some even subconscious pressure that if you're in the house, you should be a single person?
I think it was a mix of both. Also, there is this vision of me, I feel like, and I'm not complaining, but there's always been this vision of me. But that was also when I did Celebrity Big Brother in Italy, and that is good looking, so is I don't want to say you're meat for but you know what I mean,
A
like
heartthrob. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like his role is supposed to going after girls, be that kind of guy. But if I wanted to be that, I would have done a dating show. And I got so many requests throughout the years about dating shows in Italy, in the UK, in America. So I would have done that if that's what I was looking for. For me, it's always been about being myself. That's why, even on in the city in Summer House, some people say, oh, you don't really mix yourself with drama. It's not because I don't force things. I want to be myself. I want to be who I am. If I feel something hard, I'm going to speak up. But if I don't, I'm not going to put myself in. That's not who I am. But when I film, I have the best time. 99% of the time, I always had a great time. Maybe when I got kicked in the face, that wasn't great. But, other than that, I really enjoy filming because I'm free. I'm free to be who I am. And it's I love that. Because like dating on camera, that's the goal. You go on a dating show, so that's the goal. Things should be spontaneous. That's why you can still fall in love on Summer House. You can still fall in love on Housewives, Outer Charm, whatever. But you have more freedom. The surroundings that you have is more freedom. So I think you feel more. I never done a dating show, so I'm just speaking on how I feel and my experience with my kind of reality TV that I've done. I just think it's more like who you are, and you go with the flow and you live the moment.
Do you feel like maybe, differentiating between Summer House and In the City, was that an appealing factor of doing In the City with Lexi, where you're like, now people can see a different side to me because I am always portrayed as, the heartthrob, but now you're in this committed relationship and you're married, and what was that approach like coming into the show, showing that side of you?
I mean, I still brought Lexi coffee in bed a few times and still cook her breakfast, but of course, got caught. But that's part of those little things is who I am. I just thought In the City was more our actual dimension, because I've seen, not everybody, but I've seen some people expected a different show, they think about like Sex in the City, or they just thought about the same people from Summer House going in the city. But at the end of the day, In the City is more similar, not completely similar, but it's the next step. That felt very natural. Plus, we've been friends with Lindsay many years. Kyle and Amanda, we've been friends. Nick and Yvonne, we've been friends. Danielle, we've been friends. Everybody was connected because everybody's been friends with each other. Because even if Gavin, I only met him last summer, maybe a month before filming, he was a really good friend of a lot of our other friends. So, Kenny, same thing. Owen, it was a beautiful surprise. It was really pleasant to meet. It took him a little while to open up, but then when he opened up, especially, he actually, I don't know if he's going to make it, but he said at the reunion, I feel very comfortable with Nick and Andrea talking about certain stuff, because you open up to us. Even Lexi felt very comfortable doing it. Plus, as I said, yeah, she might be 10 years, 15 years younger than some other people, but when they're in the same room, when they talk, nobody really realizes. Like a lot of people
Right.
forget.
Right.
So she felt very comfortable as well.
Now I'm going to pivot a little bit because I do want to talk about your wedding, which
Yeah.
was so stunning. I mean, fairy tale, but there's so much, I feel like summer house lore that happened at your wedding that we really didn't realize until this season of In the City. One, Lindsay being pregnant when nobody knew. And then another thing, now that we're looking back on it, was Kyle going to your wedding without Amanda. Did you know that Amanda wasn't going to come?
I knew. I just don't know how early I found out because it's so funny because we sent all the invite, all the papers invited, really nice with like we put a lot of work into it, and somehow Kyle's and Amanda invite got lost. So Kyle texts me like Kyle thought he wasn't invited anymore. I was like, bro, are you serious? I love you. We have so much history together. I was at your wedding. Do you think I would not invite you? So I sent an emergency invite. It still kept it free to be there because we were texting. But he thought for a second that he wasn't going to be invited. And we're like, seriously? So he finally got the second invite. He organized everything. I forgot the communication, so I would like to you to tell you I went down about the fact that Amanda wasn't coming, but I was aware she wasn't coming. It wasn't a very last minute thing. It might have been uh, maybe a month before. I think I would have to go through our chats because I totally forgot about that. But yeah, basically she couldn't come. I don't know if it was like related to the dogs or if it was related to the schedule because I think they had Kitty DeLuca wedding a couple months later in Italy, so they were already committing to that. So maybe it was more logistics. I forgot. I could find out, but I forgot. Kyle, Jason, and Carl came earlier than everyone else, so they even had a more special treatment than anyone else. I mean, we made sure there was events, there was so much things organized for everyone because we wanted everybody to come together, to feel home, to connect, and that what really happened. And the most surprising thing that even the Italians, they all came together. It was so beautiful, and everybody said this. We had a blast. Like a lot of people said, this is the best wedding we've ever attended because of the way the Italians and the Americans came together, and also the fact that we organized these few activities just for the Americans. The few days leading to the wedding, they all like became friends, party
Mm-hmm.
together, at dinner together, talk about stuff like But yeah, Kyle, Jason, and Carr came before, so we went on a little boys trip on the lake. They were amazed by it. We had so much fun. There was a little bit of spreading rumors that maybe Lindsay was pregnant, but nobody really knew because nobody knew until she said it. But there was already some rumors. We had transportation for everyone because the drive back to Verona from the wedding venue was like 35 minutes, 35 minutes. And out of 120 people, only 4 people left at midnight with the first transportation. And a couple of them were like seniors. And one was a good friend of mine that was sick. And the other one was Lindsay, which now makes sense why she did. That was like suspicious because, you
Right.
never expect Lindsay to be the first one leaving, but we knew, but of course, but yeah, everybody stayed. And when actually we had to turn off the lights because, our, it was time to go home, everybody was sad. And they kept partying on this bus together. People were like 50 years old, people that were 20 years old, people that were 30 years old. They all came together drinking in the bus because they brought all the wine, all the bottles from the venue back to Verona. Alexi and I were still on the lake, but we got stories on all the things that happened on that bus. So it was great.
When you guys were in talks to do In the City, and because I know Lexi had filmed a little bit for Summer House, but this kind of feels like a step further, right? You guys are filming together. Were you protective over her? Was she apprehensive? What were those conversations like of bringing her onto the show?
So I gotta say that Alexi is tough. She's probably tougher than I am. Like she's very well spoken. She's not gonna scream at you. She's not gonna like she's not that kind of person. She's very educated. But she knows when it's time to step in. She knows what to say. She's very aware of everything. And I didn't really fear for any of that. Like I know that if you have to say something, you're gonna say it. So
Yeah.
just be yourself. She's not gonna be. It's hard for her to be the one that's gonna scream. She doesn't scream. Like she's not
Yeah.
like who she is. Like, everybody has different approach. I'm not saying that screaming is wrong. I mean, for me, it's not the best way. But I wasn't really happy to see myself on the rooftop that agitated. But I don't think screaming is the answer. But some people prefer to do that way. Everybody's different. I just was like, just be yourself.
So, as In the City is getting ready to air, this Summer House bomb drops about West and Amanda. And I'm just curious to know if you guys felt like your premiere was overshadowed by that.
I mean, it's a very good question. Fair point. I don't know if we felt like that. We were definitely wondering because, I mean, when they separated, we were already done filming, but that was easy to show. When that whole thing came out, me, because I had experience, I know that we're going to try everything to move things around for both shows.
Mm-hmm.
I just think if that didn't happen, the show would have been different, slightly different, because there was a lot of like going on also with kind of Amanda more than what you've seen, but it's hard to tell. So it wasn't like we felt that few things would have been switched around, maybe different focus. Like I think few things weren't as focused as they would have been if that scandal wouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you would know more about some people's backstory because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, I feel like a lot of people you don't really know who they are or what they do. Yeah, I mean, you know that they're involved in drama, but I feel like sometimes to have a backstory of certain of the people that you're watching is always nice. Yeah, there's definitely been some switch around that weren't in our power, but we weren't worried. It was out of control. Was I mad?
Right.
No, I wasn't mad. Was I mad to West and Amanda? I didn't share what they did, but I wasn't mad. Everybody do what they want with their lives.
There's been a lot of talk about West potentially coming on for season 2. What's your opinion on that if it goes in that direction?
I don't know. It's not up to me. I didn't have any issues with Wes before all of this. I didn't talk to Wes since January, since the Summer House premiere. I would act with him under the same room. I would be scared to leave my wife around. I'm joking, but I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know. I would have to find myself in that situation.
What about Carl? I mean, fans have been pretty vocal about Carl being on season
Carl
2.
and I were very close. The day that the news about Amanda and West erupted, I was in Lexi and I were in LA. Carl was flying to LA. You already found out the news in the morning because he got broken early in that morning. But we went for lunch together, and it was a mess. He was like really.
Carl's a mess.
Yeah, it was. It was. He used this word. He used it at lunch. I said, "I'm a mess right now." He actually used it. So when I saw that interview a few hours later from Kyle, I was like, "Oh yeah,
You were like,
used the same." Carl used that word. So yeah, it was really a mess. It was. So I would have loved to have Carl already last year, especially he has this new activity that is doing really well. Like he put his own heart. It was a part of his journey because I never met Carl before sobriety, but I heard stories and I know that he made this really big life change. I always admire him because at the end of the day, this kind of a reconnect. That if you want something, you got to give up things, and he gave up a lot of things for the best, for what he considered his best and what his best version of himself. So I thought it would have been great, and I would love to do stuff with Carl again on TV, of course. But I'm always being you're cheering. But yes, I would be really open to have Carl on a
It
second
would be a
season.
natural fit, you know,
Oh
if
yeah,
that's your
100%. It's
goal.
so
Then
natural. He's connected to everyone because he knows Nick and Yvonne a long time. He knows Danielle. He knows everyone. He knows
yeah,
Gavin. Like he knows Gavin like from many years as well. So it would be a very very natural fit, and I think he would be great at it. And it would
yeah.
also very suit the stage of his life because I think Carl is in that next chapter we were talking about
Yeah.
it earlier. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, and I
So
don't think that's always, the next chapter isn't always married, babies,
oh
whatever.
no.
For
No, it's
him,
figuring
it's
out like, you're dating. It doesn't have to be exactly like marriage and kids, but it is
right.
like, partying. Yeah, I can go to a party once in a while, but at the same time, I'm having a business. I'm trying to figure out my dating life because Carl is someone that wants a family. He never
Right.
denied that. He wants a family. He always, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if he says it on summer hours, but I know he tells me. So I know he
Yeah.
really wants a family. So he's definitely like looking forward for the next chapter, also from a relationship standpoint.
What's your relationship with the word murky these days?
I mean, listen, that was a mistake. It was, I mean, I used it to summarize my
No, I
feeling
don't
of,
think you were wrong. I don't think you were wrong because at the end of the day, let me explain my perspective. At the end of the day, it's Kenny's responsibility what impression of his relationship he leaves with everybody else. And if that was the impression that you got,
you're saying, you just mentioned, I don't know if you know that, but you just mentioned like a big pillar of reality TV with what you just said. Whatever you said on camera, it's fair game. Unfortunately, because you could have 2 hours conversation saying something bad, but that explaining is not going to make it. But unfortunately, you said that something bad. Unfortunately, it's fair game. It's fair game for everyone because another like game of telephone is another thing. When you say something, there's going to always be a messenger. It's how it works. Unfortunately, the messenger or whoever is going to be the messenger, because then you can be the messenger and the sub messenger. In the case of the murky thing, the murky came from me. But then, the old spark thing, I was a sub messenger because, I heard it from Kyle. And that, I was talking to my wife about it, which I don't think anything bad. My wife was trying to be a good friend. But yeah, the messenger is always going to be shot. And on reality TV, I think the messenger always going to be shot. I said the murky thing. It was my interpretation of what I heard from Kyle. I apologize for that. Kenny got really focused on that. I can understand that it didn't come from his mouth, and I admitted right away. I actually apologized multiple times. One apology at least made the cut, but I apologized multiple times because Kenny was really focused on the word murky, and I was saying, listen, I said the word murky. It was wrong. I apologize. I'm gonna retire the word. It's not murky, but the truth is that we're talking about the spark. You said the spark. I was literally saying, yes, let's stop talking about the murky because I said it. I'm wrong. That was my interpretation. You never said that. I said it. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus what is really the real deal. That's what everybody's really surprised about because
right.
is the lack of spark in that situation. But you gotta understand that what it got reported is what Kyle said, and that was more of a big deal to me. That was
Right.
something that I wanted to talk about, something that I wanted to discuss. I didn't care about the murky thing, but he really focused on
Right.
that murky. So I was like, I'm not gonna talk to a wall. Like
Yeah.
you don't want to talk about what it really matters. I'm out.
Well, it's like semantics, it's like, oh, I didn't say that word, but again, the picture that you're painting is not a clear
That was
one.
my interpretation. That was my
Right.
interpretation. It wasn't a clear one. It was confusing. That's why I used the word murky. I didn't know murky could be offensive, and I felt bad for that. That's why I apologized right away. But definitely, he didn't say that. It came from me. It was my interpretation about what I learned from Kyle about this confusion. Because the biggest confusion in that moment was like, Whitney just came all the way from Whitney. By the way, she's an amazing girl. And also, I said at the reunion, I believe in Kenny and Whitney as a couple. I think they're great. We just had a double date a few days ago. I think they're, working towards the next step, and I think they're a great couple. But in that moment, you're like, oh, she just moved across the country. It was already giving some problems about the closet, some other little elements, and this old spark thing come across, and we're like, oh, this is murky. Like, are you really sure about this? But yeah, it was the wrong like it was my interpretation, and I wish I didn't say, and I wish Kenny and I could have explained each other in a better way that day, because I think the approach from both of us was wrong, because it was upset, so it was like in a war mode. I got heated fast, and I wish we could have just be separate, like in a separate environment, just explain each other. We had that chance later on. You didn't see that, but we had the chance with us. We sat down, we talked things through, and we both wish that how it went.
I know we talked a little bit about the Kyle blow up at the table, but knowing your history with Kyle and your friendship, we didn't really see any like conversation that happened after that. I'm just curious if you guys talked again, or
Yeah,
you just.
it did. We talked, of course. We did. We talked. Maybe he came up to me, right in that room. Like we were in the kitchen. We're like after maybe 45 minutes when he came back, and it was like, I'm sorry. I understand where you were coming from, and I explained where I was coming from. Those are small percentage. And I saw a comment. I think one of my pictures was like, "Oh, why you didn't have the same energy with Kyle that you had with Kenny?" I don't know where that comment was going from, because I didn't engage. But is that, first of all, I have a lot of history with Kyle more than Kenny, and it was two different things. I was giving my point of views, like it was completely two different things, and nothing to do like with not having the same energy. And I was looking at him. I was like, I don't think he got. I was like, I'm not scared, like because he was really mad. I've seen Kyle heated before. I've seen him many times, so I wasn't like, I understand. I didn't like when he said, "Oh, I have 10 years," all of that, because I don't think that's true. I mean, it's true, but at the same time, he also made some mistakes throughout those years. So, like, you can really relate the two things. But we had the chance to talk to each other, and everything was good. It was really cool. Like maybe an hour later, I just felt like that in that moment I had to tell him how I felt. And it was more related to his past. I tried not to bring it up. Then Lindsay, I think, or Danielle, I forgot who did. They brought it up. I didn't want to get to that point about like the lack of like trust that Amanda had. But that what I was trying also to imply, saying because Gavin was like, oh, like 1:45 in New York City. I don't know. 1:45 is like a night in, and I was like, yeah, but you're single,
Right.
He's married. He dealt with some issues in the past. He likes to party. I mean, Kyle is the life of the party. He's great at it. He's such he has such a beautiful energy. So contagious. But he also is a married man. In that situation, I didn't feel like it was the smartest way, especially because, as I said earlier, you're trying to save your marriage. Now, of course, go for it. I'm happy. You can be however 8, 9 in the morning. But also in that time, there was that rumor about the heat in the morning. I forgot some maybe Saturday Night Live after party. There was all that stuff in that
Spending
moment.
the night at a fan's house or apartment.
Yes. So where I was coming from was all related to that. I wasn't just speaking just to give hair to my mouth, I was like thinking about those stuff. I didn't want to approach in such a violent way, like not violent in terms of like violence, but like rough way. Rough is the right word. I wanted to say, I don't think he's right. I don't think it's the right thing to do. But now I'm very happy. I'm sure he's going to have an amazing summer. I think he's doing what he loves to do, because he always loved music. That moment as a married man, I wasn't very happy about his choice of like going into DJ, or going to DJ with certain rules. Like, maybe you're not going to drink, maybe you're not going to do that. Because it would have been a much bigger conversation if you didn't storm out that way. But it went that way. But Kyle and I were great. I love the guy, and I'm never gonna. I'm always gonna be a big Kyle fan, and I want his best. I wanted the best for the both of them, for Kyle and Amanda. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Probably it wasn't meant to be. But I'm always being a big fan of the both of them.
I want to end with the fun fact that you told me. And we love a reality TV crossover around here, but you told me that you have known Bryce from Love Island
Oh yeah,
USA for 10 years.
yeah, no, yeah, and no, Bryce, he was still underage. We were going to clubs in New York City. We're part of the same crew of friends. So before he moved to LA, I think he moved to LA maybe 2018. But yeah, for probably a couple of years. We met 2015, so 11 years, yeah. And young, he was young. I think he was 19. Yeah, he was modeling in New York City. So yeah, we hang out. We're literally in the same crew for a while. And we always kept in touch. Actually, it's funny because we text a few months ago because it was even if it was like already over a year, but he was like congratulating about the wedding. You know, because also he remembers me from those days. You know, we were like
Yeah.
wild and free. Like a lot of. It was a fun time, but
Yeah,
great
I
guy.
can imagine. I can imagine
Yeah,
young Andrea and young Bryce
yeah,
would be very
yeah.
popular with the
We
ladies.
maybe we had I don't know, maybe we had a couple girlfriends in common too. I don't know, but good times, good memories. Yeah, no, great guy. I'm very happy for him. I was actually surprised to see him on Love Island because I know he was like DJing and stuff. So I know he was actually building his music career. I'm sure he's gonna benefit a lot also now from it. But I'm happy. I'm happy also if he found love. Very happy for him. And it's maybe he's getting ready for the next chapter too. And
We need a summer house party this year, DJ'd by Kyle and Bryce, and all of you guys can get together and I mean talk about a blockbuster event for Summer House if that were to happen. Bring Trinity, bring everybody out.
it would be fun. I mean, unfortunately, we're in the last a month of
Yeah,
pregnancy, so we
yeah,
gotta be a
you're
little
not
bit
going.
like, yeah. But it definitely would be a fun crossover.
Well, thank you so, so much for hanging out today. And again, congratulations to you and Lexi. So excited. Fingers crossed for a season two. I was so thrilled when you guys were announced to be on the show. One of my favorite reality
I
TV
saw the
people
video. I
ever.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're just the
Thank you,
best.
Morgan. Now, thank you for having me. As always, so nice talking to you. I always have such a blast because we can talk about serious stuff, more like introvert, extrovert, having fun. So it's always like I feel very comfortable talking to you.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, let's get into this week's final thoughts. I want to talk about the House of Stassi trailer and, of course, give you an update on my Big Brother journey. But let's start with House of Stassi. This show has taken forever to come out. I feel like it's been like 3 years since it was announced that Stassi had been greenlit for what was supposed to be Stassi Says. I remember the Deadline article. I remember reading it. It picked up by Hulu. Stassi Says, 30-minute documentary style show. And it just like kind of went nowhere for a long time. So I'm excited that it is finally happening at the end of this month on Freeform and Hulu. It's now called House of Stassi. She says, I'm a wife now, I'm a mom, a podcaster, and I was not going to let Vanderpump Rules be my legacy. She's talking about how much she hates reality TV, but can't stay away from reality TV. And I feel like she probably can't stay away from it because, the paycheck. Who's on it? Her sister, Bo, her friends, Katie Maloney, Christina Kelly, Taylor Strecker. So the cast, seems stacked. But you know who was the real star of the House of Stassi trailer? It was Katie Maloney. I mean, every really interesting piece of content that came out of that trailer had Katie Maloney in it, bringing out the big guns. She's ready. I mean, in the trailer alone, she's clocking Stassi, saying, if they're not on your payroll, they don't get to be in your life. Knee-jerk reaction to the trailer. She seemingly has issues with Taylor Strecker and Christina Kelly, both. Katie says, if you have a problem with me being on the show, take it up with Stassi. And I guess there was some fallout after season 11 of Vanderpump Rules, or maybe it was season 10, whenever Christina Kelly was there. She said, I filmed a whole show for you. And where were you? I was having a baby. Katie says, I was getting a divorce. There's like a lot of back and forth between Christina and Katie. But all of that aside, I really want to know what happened during the lost years between Katie Maloney and Stassi Schroeder. I feel like a lot of women go through that where you're the same age, you're friends when you're younger, but you hit your late adulthood and you just go on different paths, whether that's, marriage and motherhood, or, you're getting divorced. And it's very common for both women to feel hurt for different reasons. So I just really want to know. I want to know what happened. Tell us, Katie. I know you will. And last but certainly not least, my Big Brother journey, okay? 2 weeks into my Big Brother journey, here's the official update. I am starting to understand the dynamics of the game a little bit better. Week 2 is a little bit more palatable for a first-time viewer. There were no volcanoes. So, that's a plus side. What I'm experiencing right now, though, is the massive spoilers from these live feeds. I'm committing 3 nights of the week to Big Brother. I made a decision I was not going to be able to do the live feeds. I have a life that I need to live. But now every time I open up any social media app, I'm seeing who the head of household is. I'm seeing who's beefing with who. I'm seeing, the arguments between one another. And I'm like, does the whole show get spoiled based on the live feeds? Like, I want to know if you watch both. Is there information in the regularly aired shows that is not shown on the live feed? I'm just so confused. I'm so confused. I feel like if you watch the live feeds, you're already going to know everything that happens, because I know it just based on the clips I see on social media. I have to admit, this is a wild ride that I'm on, being a first-time Big Brother watcher. There's a lot of caveats that I was not expecting, but I am enjoying it. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of MPT. If you love the pod, leave a 5-star review, a little boop boop, a little love you like assist. Send it to a friend who loves reality TV and pop culture, who wants a show they can listen to around their kiddos. That's me. Live, laugh, love, baby. If you want more, make sure you join the Patreon. We do a bonus episode every single week. We recap shows that you vote on for the people, by the people. So the link is in the show notes below. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. And as always, love you like a sis.